You might have already seen this coin, perhaps even held it in your hand, and quietly dismissed it as something ordinary. But what if that small decision cost you something far more valuable than you ever imagined? And before we go any further, if you're someone who appreciates the quiet stories hidden in old coins, you may want to stay connected, because what you're about to hear is something most people overlook for years. At first glance, the pattern 5-cent South Africa coin doesn't demand attention. It doesn't shine like gold. It doesn't feel unusually heavy. And to most people, it blends into a pile of everyday change. Many collectors, especially in their early years, pass over coins like this without a second thought. It feels familiar, almost too familiar. But that's where the story begins to change. Because pattern coins are not like regular circulation coins. They were never meant for everyday use. They were quietly created, often in very limited numbers, to test designs, to experiment, to decide what could have been. And in that quiet purpose lies something far more significant. Some collectors believe that the pattern 5 cents from South Africa is one of those pieces that slipped through the cracks of history. Not many were made. Fewer were preserved. And even fewer are recognized for what they truly are. Now here's where it becomes interesting. Imagine a coin that looks ordinary, yet was never officially released. A coin that may have been held by decision makers, studied briefly, and then forgotten. Over time, pieces like this can quietly move from hand to hand, sometimes ending up in old drawers, storage boxes, or inherited collections without anyone realizing their significance. And that leads to a simple but powerful question. How many of these are still out there unnoticed? In many cases, these coins don't reveal themselves immediately. Their details are subtle. The design might differ slightly from the standard version. The finish might feel just a bit different. To an untrained eye, it's nothing. But to someone who knows what to look for, it's a completely different story. In modest condition, some collectors have reported values that begin quietly. Perhaps a few $100s, sometimes a few thousand depending on condition. Nothing extraordinary at first glance, but enough to make you pause. But that's only the surface. Because condition changes everything. A well-pressed pattern coin, one that has been protected from wear, scratches, and environmental damage, can move into a completely different category. At certain auctions, coins like these have reached values that surprise even experienced collectors. We're talking about tens of thousands of dollars, sometimes more. And just when you think you've understood its worth, another layer reveals itself. There are rare situations, very rare, where a pattern coin carries unique characteristics. Perhaps a slight variation in engraving, a design detail that was later changed, or even a minting anomaly that was never meant to exist. These small differences, almost invisible at first, can multiply the value in ways that seem hard to believe. And this is where many people unknowingly miss their opportunity, because they never look closely enough. They assume it's just another coin. They move on. But those who pause, those who examine carefully, often discover something completely unexpected. Now consider this. An older collector once shared a quiet story. He had kept a small tin box for decades, filled with coins collected over time. Nothing organized, nothing labeled, just memories, pieces of the past. One day, out of curiosity, he began sorting through them again. Most were exactly what he expected. But one coin, just one, felt slightly different. It didn't stand out immediately. In fact, it almost went unnoticed again. But something about it made him take a closer look. The design wasn't quite right. The finish seemed unusual. And after careful inspection, it turned out to be a pattern piece. That single moment of attention changed everything. Because what he thought was just a minor curiosity turned out to hold significant value. And here's the part many people don't realize. Stories like this are not as rare as you might think. Across South Africa and beyond, there are collections sitting untouched, drawers that haven't been opened in years, old wallets, jars, and boxes filled with coins that have never been re-examined. And among them, there could be something far more valuable than expected. Now, let's go deeper. The pattern 5-cent coin isn't just about rarity. It's about history, about decisions that were never finalized, about designs that were tested and then quietly set aside. That gives it a different kind of importance. It's not just currency. It's a moment that almost became permanent, but didn't. And collectors understand this. That's why, at certain auctions, when a genuine pattern coin appears, interest grows quickly. Bidding becomes competitive, and prices begin to rise in ways that seem almost unpredictable. Some reach values that feel surprising. Others go even further. And this is where the final layer of the story begins to reveal itself. Because in extremely rare and exceptional cases, when a pattern 5-cent South Africa coin is found in near perfect condition, with unique characteristics and verified authenticity, the value can reach levels that most people would never imagine. There are instances, very few, but real, where such coins have been valued at extraordinary figures. Up to $38 million. Yes, $38 million. Not for every coin, not even for most. But in those rare, exceptional circumstances, it becomes something entirely different. And that's what makes this so compelling. Because the difference between a coin worth a few cents and one worth millions is often just knowledge, attention, and timing. So the next time you come across an old coin, especially one that feels slightly unusual, don't rush past it. Take a moment. Look closer. Because what seems ordinary might not be ordinary at all. And if there's one thing experienced collectors quietly agree on, it's this. The real value of a coin is not always visible at first glance. Sometimes it waits to be discovered. So check your drawers, your old collections, even the coins you've ignored for years. And if you find something that feels different, trust that instinct. Because you never know what might be hiding in plain sight. And if you want to uncover more stories like this, more hidden values, more overlooked treasures, consider staying connected. There's always another discovery waiting, just beneath the surface. You may have seen this coin before, maybe even ignored it, but what if that small, ordinary-looking piece has been quietly sitting in your home, holding a value far beyond what anyone would expect? And if you're someone who keeps old coins tucked away, it might be worth staying a little closer to conversations like this, because small details can change everything. The pattern 5-cent South Africa coin doesn't look special at first. It feels like any other coin. Many people pass it by without a second glance. But here's the difference. This wasn't made for everyday use. It was created as a test, a possibility, something that almost became official but didn't. And that makes it rare. Some collectors believe only a limited number were ever produced. Even fewer survived in good condition. And over time, these coins quietly made their way into private collections or were simply forgotten. Now here's something most people don't realize. In average condition, a coin like this might be worth a few $100s. In better condition, it can rise to a few thousand. That alone is enough to make you look twice. But the real surprise comes later. Because in rare situations, when the coin is well preserved and has unique features, its value can increase dramatically. At certain auctions, collectors have paid far more than expected. And in extremely rare and exceptional cases, values have reached astonishing levels, up to $38 million. Not for every coin, but for the right one. So before you overlook that small coin again, take a moment. Look closely, because sometimes the most ordinary things carry the most extraordinary stories.